Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I'm Gene, and today, well, as we all know, the Israel-Gaza war that, well, it's supposed to be over. We'll see what happens. All the living hostages are back, and now the next step is for Hamas to disarm. They are pushing back on that, but Trump apparently means to keep his promise to fully back Israel to finish the job if Hamas reneges, and he's already said that Hamas is going to disarm or they will be disarmed. And the only people I can think of to do that would be Israel. So the main thing, the hostages are back. Hamas now they are keeping some dead bodies still. They are being turned over, as my understanding is. But with the living hostages all back in Israel, Hamas has no more leverage over Israel to stop Israel. So as far the main thing is that I guess you could call it a hostage crisis of these hostages being held in Gaza. So that hostage crisis is over. So we go on to the next hostage crisis, which is us, the American people, being held hostage by 5 Democrats. Just need, as I understand, 5 Democrat votes to open the government. So the government is shut, and we are essentially being held hostage because that's the only power that the Democrats have left. And what they want is they want $1.5 trillion of new spending, basically reverse the big beautiful bill, number one. Number two, provide free health care to some illegal, unlawful aliens. But most of all, to extend the Obamacare subsidies that were temporary, that were put on during COVID, that are now scheduled to expire, I think, November 1st. In November. Anyway, so plenty of time to talk about that, but the Democrats are saying, no, you have to agree with us and give us everything we want, or the government will stay shut down. We'll see what happens. I am rooting for the Republicans to stay strong, and one of the reasons is I'm going to turn over, to extend a government program, basically expand government, not to reform Obamacare. We were warned about this a long time ago, and that's what, as you probably guessed from the title, I will be turning the floor over now to Ronald Reagan. This is a speech he gave in 1964. I'm not going to show, I linked to the entire speech. It's about 7 minutes, but I'm just going to show you an excerpt where he's talking. Well, the whole thing is about the big government and welfare state. And that's why I linked to it. If you want to listen to the whole thing, it's worth listening to. But I just want to focus on this one section we talked for a couple minutes about government programs, because he was 1964, you have to remember, that is the very beginning of the great society programs, all this Medicare, Medicaid, all these programs that were supposed to be, if I recall, was a Medicare or Medicaid, one of those. Lyndon Johnson, the president at that time, predicted that it would cost about $600 billion. We are into the several trillions of dollars by now. That was all this idea. Same thing with Obamacare. Supposed to bend and I heard Democrats, I forget who it was, making some excuse now for Obamacare for the soaring prices. And they said that Obamacare wasn't supposed to solve all the problems or whatever. There were 2 specific promises. Number one, it would bend the cost curve down, and actually 3 promises. If you like your insurance, you can keep your insurance. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. For me, definitely keep your own insurance. That was a bald-faced lie. Well, we all know that anyhow, but I still remember the letter I got that my insurance was being canceled, and it was a letter that said, you were canceling your insurance and we're putting you on this other plan. Didn't even ask me, just said, we're putting you on this other plan in the Obamacare exchange. I immediately called an insurance agent and I said, I want new insurance. I don't want, I canceled that. and it was Oxford, I believe it was, I canceled that, say, get me some insurance that is not on an Obamacare exchange. I want nothing to do with it. And he said, I can get you insurance that is not on the exchange, but it's going to follow, it'd be forced to follow the same law as everything that the insurance on the exchange would have to follow. So it didn't help. And now, well, I don't want to get off on a track on that. I just want to say that Reagan explaining why the Republicans should stand strong against um, um, Marjorie Taylor Greene, another, she's a real piece of work, if you ask me. I mean, I'm a conservative, and she's a conservative, but she wants those subsidies extended because for some of her constituents, their insurance is going to soar. But that's the whole point, because the insurance, Obamacare doesn't work. Now, the Republicans, they have to stand. Reagan's going to explain why the Republicans need to stay strong, not give away anything to open the government, and then talk about extending these subsidies, which ideally don't do it, or do it in exchange for healthcare reforms. I would say, Democrats, you are calling for bipartisanship. Let us remind you that Obamacare was passed on a strict party line vote by one vote, and in the Senate, and they had to, I won't bore you with the details now, but they had to do a very complicated maneuver to get it passed. Basically, what they ended up doing, the House bill, they stripped everything out of the House bill except for the title of the bill, and then they put the Senate version in and passed that by one vote. So the Republicans say, okay, well, you want bipartisanship? Okay, we want to revisit, we want to repeal and replace Obamacare with a bipartisan health care program or plan or policy or whatever you want to call it. So without further ado, here is Reagan way back in 1964 when all these government programs, I remember, I'm old enough to remember when all these programs were just getting started, and his prediction, and we see what happens now. Now he'll be talking about, referring to certain senators that you may not remember, the money he'll be talking about, like then that people could earn $3,000 a year. You could live on $3,000 a year way back then. I know that too. So there's some things like that from the past, but it doesn't change the main point. I think you'll get his main point. So here is Ronald Reagan.
Not too long ago, a judge called me here in Los Angeles. He told me of a young woman who'd come before him for a divorce. She had 6 children, was pregnant with her 7th. Under his questioning, she revealed her husband was a laborer earning $250 a month. She wanted the divorce to get an $80 raise. She's eligible for $330 a month in the Aid to Dependent Children program. She got the idea from 2 women in her neighborhood who'd already done that very thing. Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything. Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant, it's just that they know so much that isn't so. Now, we have so many people who can't see a fat man standing beside a thin one without coming to the conclusion the fat man got that way by taking advantage of the thin one. So they're going to solve all the problems of human misery through government and government planning. Well, now, if government planning and welfare had the answer, and they've had almost 30 years of it, shouldn't we expect government to read the score to us once in a while? Shouldn't they be telling us about the decline each year in the number of people needing help, the reduction in the need for public housing? But the reverse is true. Each year the need grows greater, the program grows greater. We were told 4 years ago that 17 million people went to bed hungry each night. Well, that was probably true. They were all on a diet. But now we're told that 9.3 million families in this country are poverty-stricken on the basis of earning less than $3,000 a year. welfare spending 10 times greater than it was in the dark depths of the Depression. We're spending $45 billion on welfare. Now do a little arithmetic and you'll find that if we divided the $45 billion up equally among those 9 million poor families, we'd be able to give each family $4,600 a year. And this, added to their present income, should eliminate poverty. Direct aid to the poor, however, is only running about $600 per family. It would seem that someplace there must be some overhead. So now we declare war on poverty, or you too can be a Bobby Baker. Now, do they honestly expect us to believe that if we add $1 billion to the $45 billion we're spending, one more program to the 30-odd we have, and remember, this new program doesn't replace any, it just duplicates existing programs. Do they believe that poverty is suddenly going to disappear by magic? Well, in all fairness, I should explain there is one part of the new program that isn't duplicated. This is the youth feature. We're now going to solve the dropout problem, juvenile delinquency, by reinstituting something like the old CCC camps. And we're going to put our young people in these camps. But again, we do some arithmetic and we find that we're going to spend each year, just on room and board for each young person we help, $4,700 a year. We can send them to Harvard for $2,700. Of course, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting Harvard is the answer to juvenile delinquency. But seriously, what are we doing to those we seek to help?
As usual, no, well, I was going to say I couldn't have said it better myself, but really nobody could have said it better than Reagan said it. Remember, that was back in 1964. Can Ronald Reagan call him, or can he call him? And I'll call on you to share any comments you might have in the comments section below the video. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.